My stepson unhooked my bra, and I hold his tool, putting my hand inside. Hello everyone. Welcome to our channel True Documentary Stories. Here we bring the juiciest stepmom stories daily, but you have to show your love by pressing the subscribe button. I am Claire. I am 38 years old, a wife to David, and a stepmom to my wonderful stepson Ryan, who is 19. Today, I want to share a secret with you, a secret that nobody knows, and one that has changed the course of my life. David and I married a few years ago, and while he's a loving husband, our marriage has shifted over time. He's always been consumed by work, leaving me feeling isolated and neglected. I often find myself longing for a deeper connection. Then there's Ryan. He's not just David's son, he's become someone I care about deeply. When I first met him, he was just a shy teenager, but I've watched him grow into a confident young man. He has this spark in him, a passion for life that's contagious, but it's more than just admiration. There's an undeniable chemistry that I never expected. I know it's taboo, he's my stepson, we're not supposed to feel this way, but the heart doesn't always listen to reason. One evening, David had left for an important meeting, leaving Ryan and me alone in the house. I wandered into the living room, aimlessly flicking through the channels, but I couldn't shake this feeling of restlessness. I thought about Ryan, how he was upstairs in his room, probably napping after a long week at college. After a few minutes, curiosity got the better of me. I tiptoed upstairs, the floor creaking softly beneath my feet as I approached his door. I hesitated, my heart racing. What was I thinking? But something deep inside urged me on. I gently pushed the door open, and there he was, Ryan sprawled naked on his bed, the afternoon light streaming in through the window, casting a golden glow around him. He looked peaceful, his chest rising and falling rhythmically, a hint of a smile playing on his lips even in his sleep. I felt an overwhelming rush of affection, a mix of maternal instinct and something much deeper. When I saw him naked, I couldn't hold it anymore. I stepped inside the door, clicking softly behind me as I stood there, watching him. I couldn't help but admire how he had grown. The air felt heavy with unspoken emotions, and I found myself drawn closer, unable to resist the urge to brush my fingers lightly over his hair. Just as I did, he stirred awake, his eyes fluttering open to meet mine. "Hey," he murmured, sleep still thick in his voice, confusion quickly giving way to a smile. "What are you doing up here?" "I just wanted to check on you," I replied, feeling my cheeks warm as I took a seat at the edge of his bed. "You looked so peaceful, I didn't want to disturb you." Ryan propped himself up on one elbow, his gaze searching mine. "Thanks, Claire. I was just really tired." He looked around his room, remnants of his college life scattered everywhere. "Do you want to talk?" I asked, wanting to bridge the gap that had grown between us lately. "Yeah, sure," he said, sitting up, covering himself in a blanket. The sight sent a thrill through me, and I felt my pulse quicken. As the minutes passed, the atmosphere began to shift, the playful banter gave way to something deeper, a charged tension that crackled in the air between us. I slowly take my hands towards himself and hold his tool and slowly starts rubbing. He was first in shock, but when he saw a smile on my face, he felt relaxed and can't hold his emotions anymore and pushed me towards himself. I leaned in slightly, captivated by the warmth radiating from him. "I've always felt a connection with you, Ryan," I confessed, my heart racing. "It's different from what I have with your dad." His gaze locked onto mine, intense and searching. "I feel it too, Claire," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's something about us." I found myself leaning closer, drawn in by the magnetic pole between us. I felt a flutter of excitement mixed with fear. "Ryan, we shouldn't." But before I could finish my thought, he reached out, brushing his fingers against my cheek. The softness of his touch sent a shiver down my spine. "It's okay," he said, his eyes never leaving mine. "I want this too." In that moment, all my reservations faded away. I closed the distance between us, capturing his lips in a tentative kiss. It was gentle at first, testing the waters, but the moment our mouths met, everything changed. The kiss deepened, filled with an intensity that took my breath away. His hands found their way to my waist, pulling me closer as I melted into him. I had never felt anything like it, so right yet so wrong. We lost ourselves in each other, forgetting the world outside our room. Our kisses grew more fervent, a mix of longing and desire. I felt his hands exploring, trailing along my back, igniting every nerve ending. The tension that had been building for so long erupted in a passionate embrace, and I knew that this was just the beginning of a forbidden journey we were both willing to take. As we pulled away, breathless, the reality of what we had done sank in. I looked into his eyes, a mixture of excitement and fear swirling within us. There was no going back now, and I knew that our lives would never be the same again. The secret we shared had the power to change everything, but in that moment, all I could think about was the fire ignited between us, a flame that I was unwilling to extinguish. Days turned into weeks, and our stolen moments became more frequent. I'd catch glimpses of him in the kitchen, his back to me as he poured a glass of juice. The way his muscles flexed under his shirt made my heart race. Sometimes, I'd find excuses to linger near him, brushing my hand against his arm just to feel that spark again. One afternoon while David was at work, Ryan and I found ourselves in the backyard, enjoying the warm sun. I was tending to the garden, and he had brought out his guitar, strumming softly. As I worked, the sound of the music was soothing, and it created a comfortable atmosphere between us. "Can you play something for me?" I asked, glancing over my shoulder. "Sure, what do you want to hear?" he replied, a playful glint in his eye. "Surprise me," I said, smiling. He began playing a soft melody, and I closed my eyes, letting the music wash over me. I could feel his presence beside me, the energy between us pulsing in the air. It was intimate, and I felt my heart swell as he sang the lyrics, pouring his soul into the song. When he finished, I turned to him, a smile on my lips. "That was beautiful, Ryan. You really have a gift." "Thanks, Claire," he said, blushing slightly. "I love sharing it with you." Without thinking, I moved closer, brushing my fingers against his knee as I knelt beside him. "You should play for me more often," I whispered, my heart pounding in my chest. He looked at me, his gaze darkening with desire. "I'd love to," he replied, his voice low and husky. The world around us faded as I leaned in, our lips meeting again in a passionate kiss. This time, it felt more urgent, the fire between us roaring to life. I felt his hands move to my waist, pulling me into his body. The heat radiating off him ignited every inch of me. Our kisses grew more fervent, and soon I found myself straddling him, my hands tangled in his hair. I could feel the heat of his body beneath me, a thrill of excitement coursing through me. Every brush of his hand sent shivers down my spine as he explored the curves of my body, igniting a longing I had never felt before. "Claire," he breathed, breaking the kiss to look into my eyes, filled with desire. "Are you sure about this?" I took a moment to consider the gravity of the situation crashing down on me. "I am," I whispered, feeling a surge of confidence. "I want." With that, he captured my lips again, the world around us melting away as we surrendered to desires. I slowly moved towards his legs and started kissing his tool, and he loves and enjoys this so much that he pushes me, starts biting my tummy, then moves upwards and kisses on my chest that relaxes me, and it feels so amazing. Our kisses turned deeper, more exploratory, each one fanning the flames of passion. I felt his hands slide under my shirt, the warmth of his touch sending me into a dizzying haze. He caressed my skin, tracing delicate patterns along my back, igniting every nerve ending. "Ryan," I breathed, my body arching towards him, craving more. "We shouldn't, it's wrong." "I don't care," he murmured against my lips. "I want you. I want this." And with that, we lost ourselves in each other, the garden around us forgotten. The risk of being caught only heightened the thrill, making every touch feel electric. Our bodies moved in sync, the rhythm of our hearts beating as one. Lost in the heat of the moment, the kiss deepened, and I felt myself being consumed by desire. Ryan's hands roamed over my body, igniting every inch of me. I lost myself in the sensations, the sweetness of the air, and the warmth of his body beneath mine. Just as the world seemed to fade away completely, we heard a car pull into the driveway. Panic shot through me, and I quickly pulled away, my heart racing. "David's home," I gasped, scrambling to adjust my clothes. The reality of our situation crashing back down. "It, okay," Ryan said, his eyes wide as he held my shoulders gently, grounding me in the moment. "We can't let him see us like this, right?" I whispered, breathless. I stood up, trying to regain my composure, the heat of the moment still coursing through me. Ryan followed suit, his eyes filled with a mix of concern and excitement. We rushed to separate, the tension still crackling in the air. I darted to the other side of the yard, pretending to tend to the flowers while stealing glances at him. Ryan picked up his guitar, strumming softly, trying to act natural as David's footsteps approached. When David entered the backyard, his face lit up with a smile. "Hey, what are you two up to?" he asked, oblivious to the charged atmosphere lingering between us. "Just enjoying the nice weather," I said, forcing a casual tone. Ryan was playing for me. David's gaze shifted to Ryan, who smiled back, the two of them engaging in small talk about his latest college project. I tried to focus on the conversation, but my mind kept drifting back to the intimate moment we had just shared, the kisses, the heat, the longing. It was intoxicating. Once David went inside to prepare dinner, I turned to Ryan. "We need to talk about what happened," I said, my heart racing as I stepped closer to him. "I know," he replied, his voice low, his gaze intense. "But it felt so right. I can't stop thinking about it." I bit my lip, feeling a surge of desire at his words. "Me neither, but we can't keep doing this. It's dangerous." "Maybe," he said, stepping closer, closing the distance between us. "But I can't help myself, Claire. I want you." The air between us crackled again with unspoken tension. I glanced at the house, ensuring David was occupied. "Just one more kiss," I said, almost pleading. Ryan's lips curled into a smirk, his eyes darkening with lust. "Just one," he teased, leaning in closer. Without waiting for an answer, he captured my lips again, pulling me against him. The kiss deepened, filled with an urgency that took my breath away. I felt the world around us fade again, and all that mattered was the warmth of his body against mine. His hands slid down my back, pulling me closer, as if trying to meld our bodies into one. I could feel the hard lines of his muscles beneath his shirt, and the heat radiating from him ignited a fire inside me. I melted into him, my hands tangling in his hair, deepening the. Our surroundings faded into the background, the garden, the house, everything forgotten. It was just us, lost in our world of desire. I felt his hands roam over my body, tracing the curves of my waist before finding their way under my shirt again. The warmth of his hands ignited my skin. I gasped into the kiss, feeling both exhilarated and terrified. "Ryan, we really shouldn't," I murmured, but the words felt hollow against the heat of our passion. "I don't care," he said, his breath warm against my lips. "I can't stop thinking about you. I need you, Claire." His honesty sent a thrill down my spine, and I knew in that moment that I wanted this, wanted him. I pulled away just enough to look into his eyes, searching for any hesitation. "You're sure?" I asked. "Absolutely," he replied, a determined look on his face. I didn't need to hear more. With a newfound boldness, I pulled him back to me, our lips crashing together again. This time, there was no hesitation, no holding back. I could feel the heat radiating between us, our bodies moving in a passionate rhythm as we kissed. I felt his hands slip under my shirt, his fingers grazing my skin, sending electric jolts through my body. I gasped, arching into him, craving more of his touch. The world outside ceased to exist. The only thing that mattered was the intoxicating connection we shared. Suddenly, I pulled away, breathless. "What if David finds out?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, panic creeping back in. Ryan brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, his expression serious. "We'll be careful, I promise." "But, Claire, I can't stop this." "I don't want to." His words resonated deep within me, stirring up emotions I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge before. I wanted him, wanted all of this. "Okay," I breathed, taking a leap of faith. "Let's just be careful." His eyes lit up with that agreement, and he pulled me back to him, capturing my lips once more in a searing kiss. It was a kiss filled with promises, desires, and an understanding that we were venturing into uncharted territory. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the yard, I found myself lost in the moment again. Every kiss, every caress ignited a fire within me, filling the spaces that had felt so empty for far too long. "Let's go inside," I suggested softly, glancing at the house. "It's too risky out here." Ryan nodded, and we slipped inside, the thrill of what we were doing making my heart race. I led him to the living room, shutting the door behind us to block out the world. As I turned to face him, the air thick with anticipation, I saw the look in his eyes, a mix of desire and mischief. "What now?" he asked, a smirk playing on his lips. "Now," I said, taking a step closer, "we take our time." With that, I closed the distance between us, kissing him deeply. The heat of the moment enveloped us again, and I felt myself surrendering completely. Ryan's hands found my waist, pulling me closer as we kissed, our bodies pressing together, hearts racing in unison. The living room felt electric, the tension between us reaching a fever pitch as we explored each other's mouths. My hands roamed over his back, feeling the strength in his muscles, igniting a hunger deep within me. "Claire," he breathed, breaking the kiss momentarily. "This is insane." "I know," I replied, my breath coming in quick bursts. "But it feels so good." "I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted, his voice low and filled with longing. "Every time I see you, I just want to be closer." "Me too," I confessed, feeling the weight of my words. "It's like there's this connection I can't ignore." "Then let's not ignore it," he said, pulling me back into him. Our lips crashed together again, the world around us fading as we lost ourselves in the heat of the moment. Time ceased to exist as we explored each other, the urge of our desires propelling us forward. Every kiss felt like a promise, every touch an affirmation of the connection we shared. I pushed him back gently until he was sitting on the couch, straddling his lap, feeling his warmth beneath me. I leaned in, kissing him deeply, savoring the way our bodies fit together. His hands slid down my thighs, pulling me closer as he kissed me with an intensity that took my breath away. I felt his fingers trail up my back, sending shivers down my spine, igniting every nerve ending in a way I had never experienced before. "Claire," he murmured against my lips, his breath warm and urgent, "you have no idea what you do to me." I felt a rush of exhilaration at his words, my heart racing even faster. "And you have no idea what you do to me," I replied, feeling emboldened as we kissed. I could feel the heat rising between us, the passion igniting a fire I hadn't felt in years. I leaned back slightly, looking into his eyes, searching for confirmation. "Are you sure you want this?" Ryan nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I want you, Claire, more than anything." That was all I needed to hear. I leaned back in, kissing him fiercely as I felt him respond with equal fervor. His hands explored my body, and I lost myself in the sensations, the electricity between us consuming everything. We kissed passionately, my hands exploring the contours of his body, feeling every muscle, every curve. I could feel his heart pounding beneath my fingers, matching the rhythm of my own. As our kisses grew more heated, I felt a surge of boldness. I pulled back slightly, looking into his eyes, my voice barely above a whisper. "I want you to show me how you feel." His eyes darkened with desire, and I could see the hunger reflected back at me. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I replied, feeling the weight of my decision. "I want this, Ryan." Without another word, he pulled me back to him, capturing my lips once more in a searing kiss. His hands moved over my body, igniting every nerve ending as I melted into him, losing myself in the moment. The intensity of our passion escalated, and I could feel the fire building within me, consuming everything in its path. Every kiss, every touch pulled me deeper into his embrace, and I knew that I was ready to take this leap into the unknown. As we explored each other, I felt a sense of liberation washing over me. This was our secret, our desire, and I was willing to risk everything to embrace it fully. With every kiss, I felt our connection deepen, weaving an unbreakable bond between us. I knew that what we were doing was dangerous, but in that moment, I didn't care. The world outside seemed to exist, and it was just Ryan and me, lost in each other. Our kisses grew more heated, and I felt his hand slide beneath my shirt, exploring my skin with a tenderness that sent shivers down my spine. I gasped as he caressed my back, pulling me closer, igniting a fire deep within me. "Claire," he murmured, his lips trailing down my neck, sending waves of pleasure radiating through me. "You feel incredible." I couldn't find the words to respond, lost in the sensation of his touch. I leaned into him, urging him to continue as he peppered my skin with kisses. I felt alive, my senses heightened as every touch, every kiss stoked the flames of desire between us. Just then, I felt his hands tugging at the hem of my shirt, pulling it up and over my head. I shivered at the sudden coolness of the air against my skin, but Ryan's hands were warm as they roamed over my bare back, sending electric jolts through my body. "Are you sure?" he asked again, his gaze searching mine, filled with desire and concern. "Yes," I breathed, feeling the weight of my longing. "I want this, Ryan." His lips crashed against mine once more, filled with urgency as our passion spiraled higher. I tangled my fingers in his hair, pulling him closer, lost in the moment as our bodies pressed together. The world outside continued on, oblivious to the fire that raged within the living room. I felt a rush of excitement as we explored each other, the boundaries of our friendship fading away, leaving only raw desire. In its place, Ryan's hands slid down to my waist, gripping me tightly as he shifted us on the couch, making me straddle him fully. I could feel his heart racing beneath my palms, mirroring my own pounding heartbeat. "Claire," he murmured against my lips, his breath hot and heavy, "you have no idea how long I've wanted this." "Show me," I whispered, my voice barely a breath. "Show me how you feel." With that, he captured my lips again, the kiss deepening as our bodies moved in sync. I felt him shift beneath me, and in that moment, everything else faded away. We were lost in each other, the air thick with tension and desire. I could feel his hands exploring my body, igniting every nerve ending as he traced the curves of my waist and hips. Suddenly, I heard a noise from the kitchen, a sound that sent a jolt of panic through me. "David!" I called out, my heart racing. "Yeah," he responded, his voice distant, completely unaware of what was happening just a few feet away. "Can you help me find the salt?" I shouted, trying to cover up the situation, my heart pounding in my chest. Ryan's eyes widened in alarm, and he pushed me back slightly, creating some distance between us. "What if he comes in here?" he asked, his voice urgent. "We have to be quiet," I replied, my breath quickening. "Just a few more minutes." But just as I leaned back into him, David appeared in the doorway, looking curious. "What are you two doing?" he asked, his brow furrowed as he glanced between us. Panic washed over me, and I froze, my heart racing as Ryan quickly straightened, trying to act natural. "We were just talking," he said, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. David stepped into the living room, still looking skeptical. "Talking about what?" "Just music," I said, trying to keep my voice calm as I smoothed my hair back, feeling exposed and vulnerable. David crossed his arms, still eyeing us closely. "You two seem a little too close for just talking." Ryan shot me a quick glance, a mix of concern and excitement flashing in his eyes. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, realizing how we must look together. "Really, it's nothing," I insisted, forcing a smile. "We were just discussing his guitar skills." David didn't look convinced, but he nodded slowly. "All right, just make sure you don't get too carried away. I need you both to help with dinner soon." "Of course," Ryan said, a hint of relief in his voice as David turned to leave. As soon as he was out of sight, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "That was close," I said, my heart still racing. "Too close," Ryan replied, a playful glint in his eyes. "But I can't stop thinking about how amazing that felt." "Me too," I admitted, the rush of adrenaline still coursing through my veins. "But we need to be careful. This can't happen again, not while David is around." Ryan nodded, but the desire in his eyes was unmistakable. "But I can't stop wanting you, Claire. You make me feel alive." I felt the same way, the thrill of our secret igniting a fire within me. "I know, but we have to be smart about this." He reached out gently, taking a stray hair behind my ear. "I'll always be here, waiting for the next moment," he promised, a smirk playing on his lips as we shared one last lingering kiss. I knew that the spark between us couldn't be extinguished so easily. There was a fire ignited, and I was willing to explore where it could lead us, just as long as we kept our secret safe. With one last glance toward the doorway, I took a step back, trying to regain my composure. This was just the beginning of something intense, something forbidden, and I could feel it in my bones.